to All Over the Place, the official podcast of Media Pub Live. I am your host, Eric Pervoznik, and we got the whole gang tonight. And then some, a very special guest as well. So, Jim Culver, how are you?
I am excellent, sir. How about yourself?
Fantastic, as always. And Marty Zamora. Hello, Marty. How are you, my friend?
Doing well.
Christine Leninger. Hello.
Hello.
There she is. All right. And joining us tonight, the host of the Hollywood and Toto podcast, The Right Take in Entertainment. Coming back to the show, another two-timer, second time to the show, Christian Toto. Welcome, my friend.
As Benny Hill would do.
Benny Hill. Much love. 121 birthday. So tonight, folks, we are going to be wrapping up the summer in movies 2023. A summer that, obviously the Barbenheimer phenomenon overtook things quite a bit monetarily. And another movie took things by storm, The Sound of Freedom, which this made money despite anybody expecting it to do anything. A movie that was given up for to be put on the shelf by the major studios and went on to make it. What do we got on that one? It was $183 million so far, and that's domestic only. And you compare that with a movie like Fast X, made $145 million domestically and $704 million global. Sound of Freedom, and Christian, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, no more than maybe $5 to $10 million so far foreign, just because it didn't get released there.
Yeah, they've been rolling it out in Latin America and a few other countries, and it seems like numbers-wise it's doing well as far as ranking. I know I got some press releases about that, but it's not a lot of money as of yet. So even if it's ranking high in the charts, it's not bringing in big cash overseas, but 180 plus million stateside, it's a staggering amount. If you wanted to bet someone and say, listen, I bet you Sound of Freedom is going to make more money than the new Indiana Jones movie and Fast X and The Flash, no one would take that bet. It'd be too outrageous. And here we are.
And that's on like a $15 million budget. So the profitability margin is unbelievable on that.
Off the charts.
Compared to even some of the big summer hits.
Yeah, and they crowdfunded some of the marketing behind that. So even the marketing costs didn't set them back anything. So it's a staggering success. And by the way, that's Angel Studios. They are known for The Chosen, Dry Bar Comedy. This was their second film. And wow, what an intro into the Hollywood game.
Now, who's the studio behind the new movie, new-ish movie, the end of summer release with Dennis Quaid, The Hill? Is that also Angel Studios, or that was another?
It's not Angel. I don't know who the studio is behind that, because that really just kind of limped into theaters and didn't get a lot of attention, sadly.
Unfortunately, granted, I am biased towards baseball movies, but Dennis Quaid's 2 for 2, The Rookie, and now The Hill, digging him a lot in those ones. And and how do we define hit anymore? Because obviously Barbie, billions upon billions of dollars. Oppenheimer did well, especially for a movie that's 3 hours in length. Mm-hmm. But look at Elemental, 154. That's a Pixar movie. Pixar movies are usually making 200 minimum, 300, 400. How do we define hit as we continue to work past all of the COVID related drop in business?
It is a fuzzier word at this point because of the bloated budgets have just been off the charts. And part of that is COVID. I think the Mission Impossible sequel, maybe even Indiana Jones, they had to throw in some money to mitigate COVID costs, things like that. So that didn't help the budget at all. But yeah, a lot of these films just cost too much money. And we're seeing that more and more these days. And you would think that Hollywood would say, gosh, those horror movies, they don't cost a nickel. They don't need a lot of promotion, and they're almost always profitable. Let's do a lot more of them, but we don't see as much of that. But yeah, it's an interesting time. It's funny. I just watched I have a friend who's a filmmaker, and he made a movie for just to say a shoestring can barely describe how little this cost. And it was a beautiful film, and it was wonderfully shot. And I often think that these studios should hire indie filmmakers and say, listen, man, Mary, whoever you are, can you tell us how to cut these costs? How do we trim the budget? How do we shoot with less? I just think they need to cut their costs. The budgets are astronomical and they're losing money.
Speaking of which, Disney of course, did well with Little Mermaid, almost 300 million domestically. But Indiana Jones, God knows how much that lost. For the Star Wars movies, they've stopped making them for the foreseeable future anyway. But they're doing well on the streamers. But even the streamers are losing money with people dropping off. So, I mean, in your estimation, when do studios figure this out? How do they plug the leak? Besides what you said with bringing the indies.
I think they have to finish. They have to settle the strikes first. Yeah,
I know that's another thing too. I want to get to later. Yeah, we're in this weird time right now.
It's an interesting flux. There are a lot of problems behind the scenes. Even the big streamers are losing money, big money as well. I don't know how it's all going to shake out. I mean, I think it is intertwined with these strikes. I don't think you can separate the two. But I think we need more transparency, and I think Hollywood is really at a point where they have to realize we need to change course here. I mean, if streaming is the future, but we can't make money from it, and for every Barbenheimer, there are too many movies that are just failing and losing studios a fortune. They've got to refigure what the model is. It's a staggering problem, and I'd hate to be someone in behind the scenes in Hollywood right now, because I think they're struggling. I think they've alienated large swaths of the audience. I think the quality has gone down, especially the summer movies. We'll talk about it. A lot of clunkers out there. But yeah, there's significant change afoot, and a lot of it is technologically based, and we'll have to see what happens. But it's what I think is interesting alone is that the strikes are still going on. There's no end in sight. The writer strike's been going on since May, and is anyone optimistic? Does anyone think we're going to have it solved in the next 2 or 3 weeks? We could be heading into 2024. And then I realized a Sony executive recently said that you're going to see a lot of blank theaters or gaps in the movie release schedule if things aren't settled soon. So there's that.
Well, they've already pushed back Dune. It was set to come out later this year. The part 2, that's getting pushed out to next year. Other movies getting pushed out to next year. Mm-hmm. And also, we're talking about summer mainly with this show, but also looking ahead a little bit. We're in September as we're recording this. This is typically when the Oscar season starts, and you take the fact that the award shows aren't doing as well anymore ratings wise, and as they flood the market or they flood the voting process and they change the rules for the voting process, no one's caring about watching these shows. But this is Oscar season, and of course, the only movie that I can think of that I really want to see is the new Scorsese. And how do you think? Obviously, how do you think with Oscar season and it's the lack of popularity now, how that's affecting movies getting rolled out?
Well, a couple problems.
These strikes going on.
Yeah, the strikes are going to mean that a lot of the A-list actors can't even talk and or promote their movies, which is going to be a problem. But last year, there were a lot of Oscar bait movies that came out that just absolutely died at the box office. Even Steven Spielberg's movie, The Fabelmans, didn't make any money. She Said made no money. Bones and All, dead in the water. Till, absolute travesty at the box office. So I think you might see more of the same. The box office came back this year, but it's different. And, you take away the Barbenheimer phenomena and you got a bad year. So I think they were lucky to get those 2 movies back to back. But I think they're going to really struggle with how to release these adult-minded films. And it may just be in a couple of years, they just go straight to VOD. And then that's the way they make their money. I don't know, but I look at the landscape and some of the titles are not coming to mind, but it's not a lot of mass appeal storytelling. It's a lot of niche. It's a lot of Oscar bait. It's a lot of specialty titles, and it's not the kind of thing that's going to ring the cash registers. It's going to be another tough season.
And so Christian, Christine, Jim, you all have teen or young, or tweeners, teen, and Marty, you've got a couple grandkids who are in that teen market. Were they seeing movies this year? Was there any desire for them to go out there and see a bunch of movies like in the years past?
I think the only movie that my kid was really excited about was Across the Spider-Verse. He's big into Spider-Man. He loved that movie. We all did. It was something unique and creative. But I mean, I think Spider-Man as a character that really endures. I mean, Marvel and DC both had superhero movies out in the summer, and they bombed. But Spider-Man for some reason is seems to be one of those characters that always seems to connect, and it helped that they made it something really creative and unique compared to everything else that was coming out. But that was the only really, and again, this is anecdotal, but that was really the only one that really connected in our family. We also saw, some other movies like the Haunted Mansion remake, which was decent actually, and of course Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was really good. But that was that I think that was more. I think older folks like that a little more people more my age rather than kids. Yeah, I think Across the Spider-Verse was really the big one, and it was a big hit. It made a lot of money, so I think that one really connected with younger generations.
Maybe this is karma, but I have to beg my kids to watch movies. They have no interest in going to the theater. And my oldest son likes horror and comedy. And I told him, we have to watch real movies sometime soon. He's like, oh no, I watch my horror and comedy. They're real. I said, yes, they are real, but we need to watch Dead Poets Society and Shawshank. And he's like, no, I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
It's wildly anecdotal, but I think today's teenagers just want to do social media and YouTube and things like that. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are many exceptions to this, but I don't know. I don't sense an enthusiasm for movie going and the young kids around my boys and their friends.
Yeah, I think for kids, movies are just kind of another form of content that's out there these days. Mm-hmm. There's video games, there's streaming, there's TV, there's all kinds of anime, just all kinds of stuff. And movies aren't as unique in art form as they used to be, so they have to compete with all these other types of content. So I think there's things that kind of get through into the zeitgeist for kids, but it's not like before where we would just go see a new movie every weekend as kids, and that was part of our cultural upbringing as we grew up. It's just a very different situation nowadays.
Yeah.
Actually was surprised this summer because my boys went to go see the Barbie movie with their friends, not boys and girls, but groups of guys were going to see the Barbie movie together, and they enjoyed it.
Because the girls were in the theater, man.
Perhaps, but yeah, I just was
easy
really
pickings
about that, and I can't really comment too much on it because I haven't seen it myself. Like, I'm not really. I'm a little indifferent to seeing the movie myself, but yeah, it was a thing, and they kind of got swept up in the putting on pink and going to see the Barbie movie together.
A lot of girls there. You hit it on the head. Same reason that I went to go see Bon Jovi. A lot of girls there. I wasn't a big fan, but there's a lot of girls there. So
there you go. Perhaps
that's your story.
Well, I think one of the biggest lessons of the summer is that it helps to make a movie an event. And I think that Barbie and Oppenheimer did a spectacular job, both their marketing teams, to make it something special. You had to be there. You had to be there with your friends. It wasn't just a movie. It was something unique. And we didn't wait for VOD. You had to see it in theaters. And boy, the Barbie marketers, they should have a special Oscar for how they promoted that film. It was just genius.
And on that note, Marty, you are the only one in this group who has not seen a movie in a theater this year, whether it's time constraints or being able to wait for the streaming market or whatever. Now, it's like, what do you attribute to? What's the biggest reason why you're just not going to see a movie now? Aside from the fact that we don't live in the same city anymore, and I'm saying, hey, come on, let's go see this weekend.
Yeah, that would help for sure. I enjoy the experience. I really love it. The popcorn, the crappy candy that's $14, and the big soda, and just the event of it. I love it. I always have. But over the years, life is, I don't know, gets in the way. Weekends are filled up with family events or vacation, or just there's always seems to be something else going on. And I love movies, but I don't know. And I was wondering after we talked, Eric, I started thinking about it. Is Gen X it? Are we it? After this, is the theater experience going to die? I mean, I have a classroom full of high school boys, and they are vaguely interested in movies in the theater. They often talk about, you know, Netflix and Disney and so on, because we watch them in the classroom on Friday. But they didn't come back from the summer break talking about even Barbie. They brought it up briefly, but it wasn't even a big deal to them. Want to circle back, to use a term from Big Red. You mentioned The Little Mermaid, and it did well. Did you say 300 million or something? I don't remember.
Yeah, a little under 300 million. Yeah, they're just domestically.
I talked to. We have kids down to 7, 8 years old in my school, and I talked to the other teachers and the other specialists, and almost all of them said they hated the movie. All the kids didn't like it. They couldn't stand it. So I guess maybe in that age group, it just never gets passed around that it's terrible. I don't know. But none of them said that they got good reports from the kids about that movie.
Obviously, they're all racist. That's the only explanation.
Well, clearly, but
Well, let's go back to Indiana Jones, not Dial of Destiny, but and of course the previous one, fighting the communists. And I don't know one person aside from my nephew who likes that movie. Yet that movie made what, $400 or $500 million. Yeah, and you go to your. I'm going to circle back, Marty, with a Bon Jovi sighting. 50 million Bon Jovi fans can't be wrong, which was citing 50 million Elvis fans can't be wrong. So it's masses for asses. Who knows? Sometimes it works. It's something on Barbie. It'll trudge along no matter what the reviews are. Some things are just review proof.
A potential new Rocky Horror.
The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, everyone saw it and everyone disliked it, and I think it poisoned the well for the new film. So that was it's not always the case, but often the case. If the last sequel stunk, I mean, and then I think I mentioned event filmmaking before, but I think also you have to have an absolutely killer trailer at this point. If you can rack up a great trailer that makes everyone eager to see it, I think you're done, especially with a movie like Indiana Jones. That trailer should have knocked our socks off. And we watched it, we shrugged our shoulders, said the CGI looks pretty fake, and Harrison looks older. It's, he's in his late 70s at the time. It just didn't wow us. And if you get a trailer that wows people, then the conversation really kind of kicks in, at least better than it could.
And unlike Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which I didn't see in theaters, it's Indiana Jones for me that ended when Indy and his dad and Salah and Marcus rode up into the sunset at the end of Last Crusade. But I did go see Dial of Destiny. It was a matinee. I'm like, okay, I'll see it. Closure, all that stuff. It wasn't that bad, but you shouldn't walk out of an Indiana Jones movie saying,
Yeah. That was my reaction too. It was fine. I would have no interest in seeing it again.
Right.
The likelihood of staying too long is always the more likely.
Yeah.
It's rare that you get out early, get out ahead of the game. It's rare that you make one too few. It's more common that you make too many.
Yeah.
Speaking of trailers, Killers of the Flower Field. Have you guys seen the first main trailer? I'm assuming you have.
Oh yeah, it's Scorsese. So I mean, I'm there no matter what.
You were mentioning it has to, have some punch, like Barbie really did it well. It was interesting. If we saw the same one, there wasn't a lot of dialogue, some voiceover, and a lot of just cinematic and music. Is that the one? Is that the main one?
Well, what's interesting about that is I think sometimes that can be really helpful because I think a lot of trailers give away too much. And also it is meant to be a tease. The Barbie trailers, you watch it, there was 2 or 3 of them. I didn't know what the movie was about. I had no clue. It looked fun. It looked interesting. It had lively music. It had likable, attractive actors. You had to see it just to figure out what the story was. And I think that was genius. So with the Scorsese trailer, if they're keeping the dialogue to a minimum, I have no problem with that. It's genius. And also it's Scorsese and DiCaprio. You've got a built-in audience there. That's a twofer.
And very quickly, I'm glad that Marty, like we're old buddies, is using Jesse Plemons as much as he is.
I love him.
I've loved Jesse Plemons since Friday Night Lights, and just seeing how good of a dramatic actor he is. So I'm glad that Scorsese is obviously DiCaprio and De Niro, but Jesse Plemons is flying in under the radar, and I like that. Do you see that as a good stepping stone for him possibly getting bigger roles, more starring roles, or is he destined to be a supporting actor?
I mean, he is everywhere. He's in every third movie. And by the way, if you want to see him be funny, check out Game Night with.
I was going to say Game Night. He was amazing.
I mean, a very small role. He steals every scene. This guy's got a lot of talent. And if he has a character actor career, well, then God bless him. He's going to be around for the next 50 years. He's going to work constantly. He's going to make great performances. So, he's not a traditionally handsome guy, but there's nothing wrong with the way he looks. But I think his career is great as is. I mean, he does a lot of interesting things. I mean, Breaking Bad, Fargo, he was excellent in. So I just love seeing him. He's just an actor who makes everything better. And I almost think you'd wish ill on an actor like him to say he should be a bigger star, because then you got to make the money. You got to make sure your box office is up to snuff, and the mediocre scripts come your way. I think as a character actor, the world's his oyster.
Well, I'm not going to name any names, but I think there's a lot of leading men right now that are really character actors at heart, but are kind of cursed to be too good looking to be character actors, and are kind of being pushed into the more bland leading men parts. And I think I'll give one example. Chris Pine.
I was going to say, you called me out on the last show. Say it. Just say it.
Yeah, I'll give one example. Chris Pine, who I think can be kind of bland in a lot of his leading roles, but I've seen him in some supporting stuff, and he can be, he gets the right role. He can be really, really good as kind of a wacky off the hilt character, but he rarely gets a chance to do that because he looks like a model, so they're going to keep pushing him into the lead roles. Where he just kind of blandly sits around and saves the day, or lets the girl save the day or whatever. But he doesn't really get the chance to show up his acting chops a lot. But when he gets the chance, there's a filmmaker, I'm blanking on his name. He did Smoking Aces and a bunch of other movies.
Joe Carnahan?
Yeah, Joe Carnahan. Thank you. He almost always casts Chris Pine in a supporting role in his movies, and he's always really good in those. But he rarely gets the chance to play those kind of characters, but he does it really well. But he'll rarely get the chance because he just doesn't fit the profile by Hollywood standards.
That's one thing I've liked about some of the actors in the scene today. I think Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell come to mind. They're big stars and they're big talented, but they'll take smaller roles now and then and just excel at it and kind of swallow their ego and say, yeah, I'm in it for a couple of minutes. I'll just do another movie, And I think that speaks well of them. It's actually good for their careers, but I like that. I mean, to me, it's them gravitating towards roles that are interesting as opposed to being, I need to be the star, I've got to be above the title, that kind of a thing.
I just recently rewatched Wedding Crashers and love Ferrell as Chaz. Just perfect. He's in, he's out. Bam, funnier than hell.
It's aged beautifully, that movie.
Now, putting a bow on summer 2023, Marty, I'm going to have to pull you out on this just because. Well, no, I will. I'll keep you in, but I want to go round table on this. What's the one movie that you wish would have done better, that should have succeeded more than it did? So, Christian, you're our guest. I'm going to start with you.
Oh my! In another universe, I'd say Sound of Freedom, but that doesn't work. Yeah, there's no movie that jumps out at me as that I loved and wished it did better, honestly. I mean, I feel like the older I get, the summer movies are it's the season I love, and the kid in me always kind of revs up again when the season starts. But yeah, I can't think of one. I mean, The Flash disappointed me. I thought Barbie was underwhelming. And by the way, I want to make a confession here, and I should have said it earlier. I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet. When they screened it, they screened Oppenheimer versus Barbie, but I knew as a right-leaning critic that Barbie was just a landmine of culture war issues. So I had to choose that, and I just never caught up with it. And the 3-hour time is intimidating to me, and I work around the clock, and I've got kids and everything, so that's bad on me. And but yeah, I'm trying to think. Actually, if someone else could jump in, I'm gonna just think about that question because it's a
You're
good
going
one.
to ponder. Okay,
Yeah.
let's do a Cartman freeze on you while you ponder. And me, we want to go to me next on this one. I'm going to go last. I'm the host. I'll wait to get the cow. So Jim, we're going to go your direction, Mr. Movie Buff.
All right, I'm gonna go with. I'm almost positive this came out in the summer, but it might have been a little bit before. But a kind of a faith-based horror movie called Nefarious.
Okay.
Really interesting movie, but basically about I'm not going to give away too much, but it's about a person who may or may not be demon possessed, being interviewed, and it's really really well done for a very small budget movie. And Sean Patrick Flannery from what is it?
Boondock Saints.
Boondock Saints. Thank you. Plays that character. It's best performance he's ever given, and he's been in a lot of good movies. But it kind of flew under the radar, and I really wish it had done Sound of Freedom numbers because it's a really interesting movie, and it is kind of I've seen some rumblings about it online by people that were kind of interested in the themes it pushed, but it really never really got takeoff velocity at the box office. So that would probably be my pick.
Oh, can I jump in? I've actually got two that came to mind.
Oh, all right. Hey, yes.
One, it might have been late spring. It was called Champions with Woody Harrelson.
I really liked that movie.
It was a very good movie. It was
movie.
very formulaic. He plays a coach who gets in trouble with the law, and to escape jail, he has to do some community service, helping these differently abled young men and women to form a basketball team. And, Woody Harrelson's a very good actor, very versatile. And it's just a sweet movie. It's got a bit of a rough edge here and there, too. I like that. But also, I'm going to mention documentary. It was a little too long, and it was a little too faith-based, and I'll explain in a minute. It's called The Essential Church, but it's a documentary about how all the COVID shutdowns and the lockdowns, how they impacted churches across the country and the few pastors who fought back. And it really is powerful. And I think they leaned too much into the faith element, and listen, you can make that choice. It's fine. But I think it has such a broader, even secular appeal based on what happened over the last couple of years that I think it missed an audience there. So, but it's a very good film, and it's a very powerful film, and it brings up a lot of important information. So I'll throw two in there.
And what was the name of that one? I'm going to write
The
that
Essential
down.
Church. And I think they did a terrible job of marketing it. I think they reached out to very few influencers in the space. I mean, I learned about it. I think I just saw it by chance. I'm thinking, my audience would love that movie. Well, I mean, not that I'm the only guy, but I'm saying I think a lot of these films, especially the niche films, they really need to be smart about who their audience is and reach out to people maybe beyond the generic critics or generic journalists.
And jumping back to Jim with yours, with Nefarious, I got a shout out to our old buddy over at Radio Free Fredonia, Stelio Savante, was one of the actors in Nefarious. So,
right on.
And Christine, you and I saw quite a few movies this summer, more than I expected to see this past summer. But what's your pick for one that you wish would have done a little bit better at the box office?
I don't. It's not so much that I wish that it would have done better at the box office. I just wish this movie was better. Like Christian said, The Flash was a big disappointment. That lead actor was annoying as all get out, and I just, I'm just not a Ezra Miller fan. I think that's what his name is, but and this is coming from mom of 3 kids. My boys all enjoyed the TV show, the one that was on the streaming channels, and they're all huge fans. And to see it just be not a great movie just was very disappointing.
And a waste of Michael Keaton, by the way, who was good in it, but didn't really have much to do of consequence.
Yeah, it was, and it was nice to see Michael Keaton back on the big screen in that way, but it just, it was not a good movie. I didn't like it.
I think I'm one of the few people, certainly I think the only person in this group, I liked it because I've got no backdrop or backstory or baggage with the TV show. I've never seen it, the CW show. And for me, having Michael Keaton there was enough because he's my favorite Batman. It was nice to see the twist on that. But you're right, Christian, not enough interesting stuff to do. but it's Michael Keaton on the big screen, and I guess it doesn't take a lot for me to be entertained, apparently. And I must admit too, I'm sick of multiverses. Can we move on?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that is a kind of overplayed
Yeah.
storyline. I mean, yes, we did enjoy the Spider-Man movie. It was good, but yeah, really, another multiverse movie.
Yeah. It wore out its welcome in record time.
But I'm an old school X-Men guy who, when Jean Grey / Phoenix died, and all of a sudden they bring her back 5 years, it's all this retro, and then DC Crisis on Infinite Earths. Yes, I'm a comic book reader from the 1970s and 80s. That's me. Once you do it, that's it. You're dead. Finished. No multiverse to save you.
Well, it's one of 10,000 gripes I have with Disney right now is no stakes in any of their movies. Nobody dies. Nobody suffers any serious consequences. Every villain becomes a good guy after like 2 movies, and the multiverse, which should have been, an endless well of creativity, just became another excuse for them to remove consequences and stakes from their movies.
Can I complain again about the rise? Was it the Rise of Skywalker? I've only seen it once. I can't watch it again. When they killed off Chewbacca and he was back about 10 minutes later, I'm like, oh my God, did they really just do that? What an awful movie. What an awful decision.
Wait, they killed Chewbacca?
Briefly.
See, again, it shows how much I paid attention.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did kill him in the first draft of the script and then changed it because they said, no, we can't possibly have anybody actually die, because then the fans would riot, and that can't take risks. So we just have to bring everybody back. So. All
right. Well, and Marty, since you haven't seen a movie this year, I'm going to twist the question that's gone to everyone else. And what movie, all of the extraneous factors that you mentioned, if those didn't play a factor, what's the one that you wish you would have seen on the big screen?
Sound of Freedom, without a doubt. And actually, I do have a take on all this. Even though I don't have a frame of reference, believe it or not, I can make some crap up on the fly. No, I do have an observation.
Trademark here on All Over the Place, everyone.
That's what we do.
So I have an observation. And it's, trust me, I'm not going to go all Bilderbergs on you. I'm not going to do that. But I wish it would have done better, because it did very well. And I don't know if any of you have seen the countless TikToks of people showing their phone with all the seats sold and walking into the theater, and there's 2 or 3 people sitting there and the movie's already running. Time and time and time again, I saw these. These were hitting my feed. I watch them in the form of kind of YouTube shorts, but it's a TikTok. It's one of the oddly enough, one of the last bastions of free press. You can put anything you want on there. But countless people doing this, and at the same time, I'm thinking, well, how that backfired. If you're trying to do something nefarious there, you just sold more tickets. But it was an interesting. I don't know if any of you guys saw it. The guy's like, look, I just bought my 2 tickets, these 2 seats. There's only 2 others available, and he flips the camera around, and there's 4 or 5 people in the theater. He's like, I don't know what's going on. This is weird. And I saw at least 20 different people do this. Now, maybe it just became a trend where you go in before the movie starts and you do a thing, but I found it interesting.
There were
a backfire-ish way to silence a movie.
Yeah.
You're going to make it sell more tickets and not go? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there were a lot of conspiracy theories about, Christian groups are just buying up blocks of tickets for this to make it look like it's making more money than it is, and my response is, so they're selling more tickets by selling more tickets. I'm not seeing the problem there, but whatever. And I don't see how that really would have an aggregate effect. I mean, unless they were spending $100 million on empty seats. In which case I'm sure the filmmakers appreciate that, and
also Christian groups could do that with every, faith-friendly film, and they don't. So
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I can vouch for the fact that when it took us, we had to sit in the front row, which I haven't done since seeing Goodfellas opening weekend. The last 2 seats in the theater back in '90. Sound of Freedom. We had to sit in the front row. It was Independence Day. We thought that, okay, let's just, after mass, we said, let's go see the movie. And it was full. And the movie was sold out for the rest of the day. So
a lot of patriots out there.
a lot of people love freedom. But
isn't that weird that a movie like that is a patriotic movie somehow? It's a conservative movie somehow. I don't.
That was one of my biggest pet peeves of the whole summer. It was not a conservative movie. It was not a political movie, and it wasn't a faith-based movie. But it became all the above. That's how it was framed and branded. It's amazing.
Yeah, you had liberals screaming about how biased it was, and I'm like, what? I don't understand why you have any skin in this negative game. Like, what? How did this become the conservative movie that it was?
That's how tribalized our culture is. That they took a movie that didn't have those elements, they pretended it had those elements, and then you had to hate it. It's crazy.
Yeah. And Christian, I want to get into that. And Marty, thanks for helping. Accidental transition. Nicely done, my friend. The attacks that you got for Barbie, just for stating a contrarian opinion. Oh my gosh, facts, reason, logic. Okay, you weren't. Your review was not scathingly hateful. It just pointed out some of the things that were in the movie. And
I mean, people were
for no good reason. And I mean, sure, it brings traffic to your site, but as someone who's building a podcast or building a website, I mean, how good or bad was it for your site?
It was pretty good for my site. I won't complain about that. But it was odd because I posted my review early-ish on Twitter, and I had like 4 days of just constant, oh, I can't wait to see it now. Oh, I'm going to really buy my ticket, or I'm buying 2 tickets. And like a lot of those silly responses, but also they hadn't seen it yet because it wasn't out yet. I got a sneak peek at it. So I could have been right. I could have been wrong. People were predisposed to like that movie. And, I get that to a certain degree. There are certain movies that I want to geek out over and say, I hope Flash is great. I'm so psyched to see it. But at the end of the day, you got to see the movie and you got to watch the movie and you got to assess it. And, and I would say things like, well, the screenplay mentioned the patriarchy 10 times. I'm like, that's bad writing. And the movie was very clunky in its messaging. And you could be okay with that. And you could say, I didn't mind that. But it's not really up for debate. I mean, that's a clunky way to write a screenplay, to kind of be so heavy-handed in the methodology. But that's what it is. And you could say it didn't bother me. That's fine. So it was a very weird discussion. But it almost became like a left-right thing where you were on Team Barbie or you weren't. And I liked the movie in the beginning, and then I thought it got less and less effective. So I don't know.
God forbid we agree to disagree on anything these days. Like it's the tribalization, it's the balkanization, it's whatever it is. And yeah.
I didn't get a death threat, and I did get a death threat when I said that Bob's Burgers had jumped a shark. So I'm happy that I think things are getting better.
And we're happy you're still standing. That people are making threats.
Wow.
I love Bob's Burgers, but the show it's done. It's over. I'm sorry. It's not.
Is it still being produced?
Oh yeah.
It should be done. It should be done.
And I almost forgot to say which one I wish would have done better. And to me, it's not so much that it didn't do better, but releasing The Last Voyage of the Demeter, releasing that when they did. And I love your review, and it was dead on. It's aliens on a tall ship in the late 1800s. And it just takes this very small piece of Bram Stoker's Dracula and makes a great tension-filled movie. And my only wish for that movie would have been release it in October, when I think a vampire film would have done better.
I don't disagree with that, but I just thought it was good enough as is, and it came out in a less crowded time of the summer. So listen, people didn't like it. You and I are the exceptions. I just look at the reviews. I looked at the audience reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, but I thought it was very smart. I thought it was clever. I thought it was a great way to kind of extend the whole Dracula story by taking just a part of a book. I don't know. I'm surprised that one really didn't do well.
Yeah, what do we know?
Marty, you didn't go to the theater this summer, but a lot of those titles are out now. I mean, you can watch them at home. Have you caught up with some, or are you still not motivated yet?
I'm somewhere in last year, catching up. Well, the one thing about it, Jen,
Have you caught up with Top Gun Maverick yet? I know that was the big one from last year that you didn't see in the theater.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's
okay,
kind
check
of
that one off the list.
that's my kind of in there. And to that point, I mean, it seems that we don't have any new ideas, or it's really hard, so we just remake something, just ruin it and put it out. If we're not going to have any writers, I mean, eventually just start re-releasing some movies that were actually good.
Well, on that note, I mean, the work that I still do at the Majestic Theaters here in Phoenix are movie parties. Like Velvet Goldmine, that was one of the Soundtrack Cinema Sundays, sold out. Dazed and Confused, where I got to dress up as one of the assistant football coaches, sold out. Again, these are event movies of past movies. Those are doing well.
Yeah, Fathom Events is making a killing off that. They've been bringing back Vacation. I think The Exorcist might be coming soon. I think if the timing is right, if they do it on an anniversary, these movies are great, and generations have not seen them in a theater. So I think it's a terrific idea. There are many movies I've seen to death that I would actually go to the theater to watch them again, just to experience them.
I'm looking forward to seeing, and I'm going to be working the party. I'll be going as Edward Herrmann's character. I'll be going as the patriarch from Lost Boys. Lost Boys movie party coming up in October. But what was the other one that was doing? We're losing time now. 40th anniversary of Eddie and the Cruisers. We don't have much more to celebrate this one before the end of the year. And 40th anniversary of Strange Brew this year as well.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh.
It does not take a lot for me to see Strange Brew any time of day, theater or otherwise, but 40 years of that one.
It's a jelly.
Still the weirdest Hamlet remake I've ever seen.
It's the only Hamlet remake I've ever seen.
The twisting.
Lion King. Anyway, sorry.
I barely know Hamlet. I know Strange Brew much better than Hamlet.
Elsinore Castle.
Yes, I'm a big dummy.
Claudius. Yes, of course. But so, and again, we put the bow on the summer, and aside from the Scorsese, I'm going to go around the room to our film buffs and otherwise. I'll start with you on this one, Jim. What are you looking forward to most before the end of the year?
Probably Killers of the Flower Moon. I would say that's the one that intrigues me the most. I like you guys nailed it talking about the Oscar movies. Most of them are Oscar bait, made for the critics, and really don't have a lot of appeal outside of that. And yeah, I think that Killers of the Flower Moon probably has the best chance of kind of crossing over into the public consciousness a little bit and getting some mainstream appeal. I'm really hoping that Scorsese can knock that one out of the park, because we could really use a little more of his art right now.
Do you think that I kind of got a little sprinkling of this could go woke really easily?
Well, because of the American Indian portion of it?
Yeah. Telling the story of how it was when this nation was being formed through conquer. I mean, let's be honest. But it can easily turn into, America's the worst.
I don't think so. Just my opinion. My opinion. Scorsese's kind of an old school liberal in the Oliver Stone vein. He will tell movies with liberal themes, but he'll tell them in a non-woke way. He usually won't shove that kind of messaging down people's throats.
I agree, and I have to agree. I can't imagine a world where Scorsese goes woke. That's a bridge too far.
Yeah.
Well, we know he's never going to make an MCU movie, so there's no chance of being wokeified in that regard.
Let's not stir up that debate.
I'd love to see him do an X-Men movie, though. That's just me.
That's true. Can I share some of my looking forward to movies?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
I'm certain topics. My mind goes blank when you ask me specifically what movie underperformed. I don't know. There are certain things as a critic that my mind goes out and I need like time to recover. But I actually thought of a couple here. One is The Creator, which is coming out fairly soon. It's a science fiction movie from the director of Rogue One, and I believe John David Washington, Denzel's son, is the star. The trailer looks very interesting. It looks very compelling, ambitious. That excites me.
A perfect trailer, not telling us too much.
Yeah. I think it's The Holdovers with Paul Giamatti. It's an Alexander Payne film, which feels like the old good Alexander Payne films. Very excited about that one as well. And then I'm actually dreading the Exorcist movie. I think the trailer is just so modern horror in a bad way. You know, I think the beauty of The Exorcist was they held so much back and it didn't have 24/7 effects and didn't have 24/7 shocks. I think this is going to be the opposite. And I think the buzz on it's already kind of bad. So we'll have to wait and see. But, you know, maybe they'll pull a miracle out.
Marty, what about you? What any movies later this year that you might actually get into a theater to see?
The name of the movie is The Bike Riders, and that's what I too am look forward to seeing. And along with the De Niro.
Hi, Christine, and we've already talked about the boys not really caring that much, but they do see movies, and I didn't realize they'd seen Barbie. So anything that you're looking forward to, or maybe the kids are looking forward to?
Well, actually, one that we've already seen that is a fall 2023 movie that I'm hoping does at least relatively well is the new Kenneth Branagh movie, The Haunting in Venice. Saw that in a preview last Wednesday, a week ago, and I enjoyed it. I've always been a bit of a big Kenneth Branagh fan, and I thought it was a good movie.
I liked it. Well, that opened this weekend, right? So
I enjoyed it too. I like it's a supernatural themed Agatha Christie. I think the blending those genres are really effective.
It had a pretty good opening weekend too.
I did also.
Jim, it did have a good weekend.
Yeah, it made I think a little over 14 million, and it was barely beat out by The Nun 2. So going back to the talk about the right time of year for horror movies. I mean, you had two horror movies that battled it out this weekend, and both did pretty well. So
the other one I was going to mention was I did see that there's a new A24 Nick Cage movie coming out, and I just love him in his quirky roles that he's been doing. Lately, those are just awesome movies. But I think this one's called like Dream Cruisers or something. Not exactly sure what the title is, but I saw
the title's escaping me, but it looks interesting. And I think Nicolas Cage is getting away from his junky, straight to video movies and getting some more interesting parts, meatier parts. He's a good actor.
And I should have done my homework. I saw a trailer for it last week. I can't remember where I saw the trailer. It was Facebook throws so much up in my face with things, but it's about a formation of a bike gang.
I think it's called Bike Riders.
Bike Ride. Is that coming out later this year, or is that beginning of next year? I thought it was maybe.
I think it's this season, so it should be next couple of months.
Well, see, I didn't even remember the title of the movie, but that's the one I want to see. Glad we had this conversation.
Yeah. And speaking of titles that I'm forgetting, there's a new movie coming soon with Emma Stone and Mark Ruffalo. It's a bit of a Frankenstein story, literally, and it's gotten rave reviews at the early festivals. So I'm very curious about that.
Poor Things, I think it's called.
That sounds right.
See, we help each other out here, folks, here on All Over the Place, because we just pick from one.
It takes a village.
That's right. Well, Christian Toto, thank you so much for being the latest inductee into the two-time club here on All Over the Place. Always fun having you here, folks. Make sure you check out the Hollywood and Toto podcast, The Right Take in Entertainment. And Christine, Jim, Marty, all over the place, folks. Thanks for listening. We'll be back real soon. Take care.
All Over the Place, where the fun sanity never ends.
Oh, did we skip me?
Oh, shit.